Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about something that I've been wanting to make a video on forever, like a long time. I've always had the thought of making a video like this, and as you can probably tell from the title, it is my top 10 favorite games of all time. The top experiences that I have had in this media form that has just meant the most to me, made the biggest impact, and that I remember the most fondly, even today. This list is in order, and it's also, I should also say as a disclaimer, this is my top 10 favorite games of all time. So if some of my picks are kind of dumb, or you think don't make any sense to a top 10 list, this is not an objective. What I believe is probably the objective best games of all time. This is just my opinions. These are just the games that mean a lot to me personally. The order could change. That's another thing I should say, is that this is just how I feel today as opposed to how I may feel in the future. Obviously, life goes on, new things come out, and my opinions could change. But as of right now, in this moment, today, these are the games that I would put on my list. So let's do it. Let's get into this. So starting out at number 10, we have Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. What can I even say? What can you even say about Smash Ultimate that has not already been said? It is a celebration of literally everything to do with this media form. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate stands as one of the best fighting games, if not the best, and one of my favorite games of all time. I've also put way too much time into this game. So next up at number 9, we have Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. So when I was going through thinking about, for this video, thinking about the games that are my favorite, I kept on thinking to myself, I gotta add like one of those tactical Tom Clancy-esque games because I'm a huge fan of the Ghost Recon and Splinter Cell series. And I just was thinking, which one is the best to me? Which one, means the most to me, was the most fun? Chaos Theory is probably the best Splinter Cell in the series, only rivaled in my opinion by the original 2 and Blacklist. And I almost put Blacklist, and originally I had Blacklist on this list, but I ultimately decided to go with Chaos Theory, as I believe it is really grounded, and that's what I appreciate about it, is that Sam Fisher, the character you play as in the game, is just a dude. Like, he is just a human being, and yes, he's a skilled, he's a skilled human being. He's very trained in what he's doing, but he's not like flying, through and climbing stuff and vaulting over things at, lightning fast like it's an Assassin's Creed game. No, I mean, it's you feel like you are Sam Fisher. It's very immersive, and I think it holds up excellently to this day, even in terms of how it looks. And I think that a lot of that comes down to its lighting design, just how nice it looks. Even now, it's actually pretty incredible. So yeah, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, hands down, has got to be number 9 on my list. So number 8, guys, is going to be something that is probably not going to make much sense to all of you at home watching this, but bear with me. Look, I'm going to explain all this. It might take me a minute, but my number 8 favorite game of all time is Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie.
That makes no sense.
Now look, calm down. I don't want y'all getting too mad about this one, thinking, or even just weirded out. Why the heck is this licensed game number 8? What does it have that you like so much? And it's a collection of things. I'm going to put up gameplay on the screen so y'all can see it for yourselves. But honestly, considering the game came out in 2007, 2008, it looks great. It honestly looks super awesome, I think. And considering how gameplay works, it's honestly pretty unique, and there's not much like it. It's almost like it has survival horror mechanics in that you don't have much supplies to work with or ammo, and the combat comes down to managing where you can get spears on the ground or find ammo, and it's just different. It always keeps you thinking, and I think it does some cool things with like the terrain and how you can affect it. I personally think it's better than the movie it's inspired by. Maybe that's a hot take, not sure, but I think it holds up incredibly well. And yeah, the Kong sections definitely are not as good. But outside of what the game is, it also means a lot to me because it was the first shooter game that I ever owned. And I remember being so excited to get it. And I was like super, super young at the time. And to this day, I just look back on it with such fond memories. And I know that the AI is sometimes really dumb and the voice lines repeated, and you can it's so meme worthy. And I really like that about it. It's every single time I play it, it just gets me to laugh every single time without fail. It's honestly pretty good. And if you've never played it before, you had no reason to play it, go do it. Give it a shot. See what you think about it. It's probably the weirdest thing on my list, but I think it's worth at least checking out.
Looks like some kind of graveyard.
So number 7 on my list is something I played recently, and it's going to be sort of a cheat answer, but I'll give another option just in case. But number 7 is going to be the TellTale's Walking Dead series. I recently just started playing. I just played this for the first time within the year, actually. I'd always heard about it growing up because it came out in like 2011, 2012, the first season. I'd always heard stuff about it. I heard it was really good and one of the best stories to just bear witness to. It was just awesome, and I always wanted to try it myself. And eventually I saw that they made a collection of basically everything, all 4 seasons, including the mini series with Michonne in it and the 400 Days DLC. And I was like, perfect, I'm gonna give it a shot. And it is one of the most engrossing stories I've ever watched. If you don't know, Telltale's games are almost like choose your own adventure stories, where it's less about actually playing for like skill, it's more so about choosing dialogue options or making a big decision and deciding the fate of your story. And it ultimately does change what happens. And my experience with how the story turned out might be different than how some of you all would experience it. To me, it's just it stands up there as one of the best stories in any video game. And I think the series is 100% worth playing altogether. I think that I would say that you shouldn't just take one, you should just play all of them and play them in order. So yeah, number 7 would be this collection specifically. But if that's cheating and people are like, nah, you can't include a whole collection, that's like 4 or 5 games right there, then I would say just season 1. The first game in the series, I would still put it at the same spot. I just want to cheat and say the whole thing because I think it's like, it's the series. It's even called seasons, season 1 through 4. And, that's just what I think. But if season 1 is the only thing that I can pick, then I would still pick that, because just the iconicness of Lee and Kenny and Clementine, and just these are characters that I think are top tier, just so well developed and well written. And to this day, I'll never forget my experiences with this story and with these characters. So that is number 7. So number 6 on my list, this is the end of the back half of my favorite games of all time, is going to be another game that I only recently played for the first time and discovered, and that is Persona 5 Royal. Now, this is another one of those games that I had always heard good things about. I always heard that it was one of the best games ever made, and that its story and characters were awesome, and I was always interested in it. But it was a PlayStation exclusive for so long, so I never got the opportunity to actually try it out for myself. And eventually, it came to Switch, so I was like, that's my opportunity. I'm finally going to get the chance to play it. The game itself, while yes, has the amazing story and has awesome characters, the gameplay too is just so fun. It is probably the best turn-based
Pity.
JRPG of all time. It really is phenomenal. At the very least, it's up there as one of the best. And as I said, the characters are absolutely phenomenal. Every single one of them just has a way of engrossing you in their stories and who they are. I think Yusuke Kitagawa is probably my favorite character, as I found his story of being sort of like used and not really seen as a person or appreciated as a person for what he could add to the world. Instead, he was just seen as a money maker, as a fame maker. He was someone that could be used and not appreciated, you know, and that's really what Yusuke wants. He just wants people to appreciate him and his art that he puts out into the world. And in a lot of ways, I can really relate to that. Even with these videos that I make here, you know, I do it, you know, to do something that I enjoy and to just put it out there for people to appreciate it and appreciate me as well. But yeah, Yusuke overall is probably my favorite character. But moving on. So now we have officially entered the top 5. So these are the peak, in my opinion, or at least as far as how it's impacted me and how much it means to me. So number 5 is going to be another sort of cheat answer. It's going to be Halo the Master Chief Collection. What is there left to say about Halo? The original trilogy, and including ODST and Reach, are the best in the series. I think 4 and 5 were definitely a misstep in a lot of ways. I think there's more to appreciate about Halo 4. Halo 5 is just trash, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. It doesn't have very much redeeming qualities other than it looks really, really amazing. But the original trilogy is just absolute peak. It is incredibly fun, and it's shocking to me how you can go from Halo 4, 5, or Infinite and go back to 1, 2, or 3, and it's just more fun. It's just objectively more engrossing and entertaining. So if I had to choose just one Halo game to be my favorite, honestly, it just depends on the day you ask me. I'd change my answer, but as of right now, today, I would probably say Halo 3. I recently went back to play it briefly just to get a little bit of footage for this video, and I ended up playing the whole thing. I ended up just finishing it because it's just so incredible. And I know it's like, oh, graphics, you know, they don't look that good today, and you know, but I think this still looks pretty good. And you know, graphics aren't everything, and the game is just fun, and the story of the Human Covenant War is pretty awesome. And I also appreciate and like how the trilogy begins the same way that it ends. Chief getting out of cryosleep, and then at the end he goes back in cryosleep. I believe it's the legendary ending if you get that in Halo 3. So yeah, it's just, to me, while the story might not be up there with the heights that is TellTale's Walking Dead or Persona 5 Royal, it still is enough, and the gameplay really is just that's the best part about it. It's just so fun. It's just like the best shooter games ever. So Halo 3 or MCC is my number 5. So number 4 is going to be a nostalgic title for me, and that's going to be Yoshi's Island, or Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island, but who really calls it that? As you can see, I have the Game Boy Advance version here with me. This is the version I grew up playing. I didn't have a Super Nintendo growing up. I had a Game Boy Advance, and this was on there, and that's what I played. So really, honestly, it's hard to fully explain how much this game means to me, because it was the first game I ever played. Literally the first one. As far as I can remember, I played it when I was like 2 or 3 years old. I was ridiculously young when I played it. And for those of you who don't know, my father was in the military, and he was actually a drill sergeant at one point. And when I was about 3 or 4 years old, he got summoned to go fight in a war, and I was given this. My dad, I believe he sent it from where he was, but he bought me and my older brother Game Boy Advance SPs, so the one with the clamshell design where it folds. And then he got me a copy of Yoshi's Island, and it basically kickstarted my love of dinosaurs, and which is still kind of progressed even to this day. Maybe a little less so, but any media form, any story involving dinosaurs just instantly interests me. While my dad was in the military, this was just one of those games that I feel like got me through it. I was so young at the time. I was like 3 or 4 years old. But my dad would call and talk to us from over where he was, and being so young, I didn't know who was on the other side of the phone talking to me. I didn't, because I was so little, I didn't know who the man was, without seeing him. I had to visually see him, my dad, to know that it was him. So just hearing his voice, I just, my parents would try to get me to, talk to Dad, and I just didn't really say anything. But then when Dad asked me about, he would ask how Yoshi was doing, and that was something that just got me talking, instantly. And I would just talk on and on about Yoshi, and so that's why even as far as being a favorite game of all time, it's also Yoshi. Yoshi is also one of my favorite fictional characters of all time too. Getting a little teary-eyed on that one. So, moving on. So number 3, I have to add a little bit of a caveat with this one. A little bit of a caveat. I'm always so torn on where to put this on my list. Sometimes I put it lower, sometimes I put it higher. And I think the reason is because it is replayable, but replaying it is not the same as when you first played it. The first time I played this game was one of the best experiences. And that's Subnautica. So, Subnautica, as I said, is on first playthrough, when you don't know anything and you're diving into it for the first time, it is awe-inspiring. Just the world design and how pretty it is in this underwater alien world. It was terrifying. It was beautiful. I was scared of everything. I literally couldn't play this game at first because I was just so scared of it. But then randomly I decided to just, push through, and I ended up finding one of the best and most creative video game experiences, and probably the best survival game of all time, in my opinion. It's hands down one of the coolest worlds to explore in the game. And I think the problem, as I said, with replayability in this game is, while it's still fun and enjoyable and you can make some awesome memories and have awesome moments replaying it, you don't exactly get the same level of discovery when you replay it, because when you replay it, you start to remember where things are, and you're like, yeah, there's a Reaper Leviathan over here, and there's this biome over here, and you can kind of have a better map. You can map everything out a little bit better, and I feel like that does take away a significant portion of what makes it so amazing the first time through. So of every game on this list, this is the one that I would actually forget everything about it if I could, and restart it from scratch and just forget everything, because that first playthrough is absolutely incredible. So Subnautica is one of my favorite games of all time. We're now in the top 2 and these two have remained specifically number 1 and number 2 for a long time, for like 3-4 years. Whenever I think of what my favorite games are, I always put these two at number 1 and number 2. And number 2 is Fire Emblem Three Houses. This game is it, man. This game is absolutely incredible. The stories in it are awesome. The characters are amazing. And the gameplay is absolutely phenomenal. I find the Blue Lions storyline the most engrossing, because I think it's the most personal. It's very character driven, by Dimitri especially. And that ended up giving me a greater attachment to this game and its world and story. And I honestly don't know if I would rank this game so high if I didn't play Blue Lions first. So I highly recommend going with that route in the game first if you're starting out for the first time, because it was just absolutely incredible watching Dimitri's story arc, and all the twists and turns that takes, and just how interesting of a character he is. His character has a lot to say about mental health and demons, people fighting their demons, and just the darkness within ourselves. I think Dimitri is just fascinating, and he never fully recovers after what happens midway through the story. Even when it seems like he does, there's still a part of him that is always forever changed. And I think it's just such a real depiction of humanity in Dimitri. Fire Emblem Three Houses is the best Fire Emblem game. I think it objectively is the best one, but there's one that I like more. And that game is my number 1 favorite game of all time, Fire Emblem Awakening. I've talked about this game and Three Houses in a separate video on my channel where I went over my Fire Emblem collection. There's so many things to Awakening that I could talk about. I think the gameplay is solid, super fun. And while I don't prefer the pair-up mechanic, I like it in this game because it's one of the few games that has it. I think that's cool. It gives it more of a unique flavor of Fire Emblem. The characters, while maybe not as deep as some that came later, like Dimitri in Three Houses, I still find the cast incredible. And there are some standout characters that I found myself really appreciating. So yeah, I found the characters so amazing. But really, what this game means to me and why it's my favorite game of all time comes down to the time in which I played it. I had only known of Fire Emblem through the Smash Brothers series, which is also why that's also on this list, because if it weren't for Smash Melee, then we might have never seen Fire Emblem over here in the West, because it was just a Japanese series. But finally, when Awakening came out, I actually wasn't even gonna play it. My older brother, was actually excited to try it out. And I remember looking over his shoulder while he's playing it, and I was like, that looks so boring. That doesn't look fun at all. Like, why you don't even like press a button to attack, you just watch. What's the fun in that? And I couldn't have been more wrong, because we lost power one day, and I remember vividly, we lost power, and I asked my brother if I could borrow it because I was bored. I wanted to do something. I want to check it out for myself. And so I popped it in and played it, and I was instantly engrossed. Anytime these characters really get to shine, I feel like they are some of the best in the series. One more final thing I want to talk about is the personal meaning of this game. The reason why it's so high for me is because it came into my life at that weird age where like you're kind of like about to be a teenager, but you're still a kid, and you feel kind of alone. You know, at least I did. You know, I was always kind of lonely, and you know, it was a scary place to be. But then when I played Awakening, it showed me that there's so many different people out there, and they can work together. And it was just such a beautiful thing for me to see that, you know, whether some of the characters are more interesting or than others, I still found it so impactful for all these people, no matter how different they were, to unite for one common goal. So for me, especially at the time, I feel like this was like the precursor to who I've become today, and how even when I don't have it, how valuable connections and family and friends are. Genuine friends, which is basically the same thing as family. Those are so important because it's in numbers, it's in groups that we can accomplish many things. And so Fire Emblem Awakening will always be near and dear to my heart, and I don't know if it'll ever not be my favorite game of all time for its story themes, characters, and what it taught me about life. That's my list. We made it to the end. Like I said, I always wanted to make this video, so I thank y'all for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to hit the like button. If you didn't like it, thank you for watching this long, and I'll see y'all in the next video. God bless.